Hello guys, it is Kate of Theories here, and if you're a Tracy Beaker fan, all you have been thinking about this week is the brand new show, movie, still not sure what they want us to call it, My Mum, Tracy Beaker. And I put a poll out recently asking what video guys you guys would like to see about My Mum, Tracy Beaker, and over 850 voted, which is just mad to be honest. I'm so grateful, and most of you wanted a theory. Now, I could do a theory on what on earth that to be continued at the end means, but it most likely is just talking about the second book, and I'm sure we're going to get information on that soon. So today I thought we'd do something a bit different. I thought we'd discuss something that has been on my mind ever since this show was first announced, and I honestly hoped it would have been answered in the film, but it just wasn't. And this question is going to keep on bugging me, and if you've been thinking it yourself, I'm sure, like me, you want the answer as well. And that is, where on earth is Seth? All of Tracy Beaker Returns focused on Seth and Tracy's relationship. Like, he wasn't a one-off boyfriend like in the original show. No, he appeared a lot throughout this show. One minute they liked each other, then he left, then he returned when Tracy had a panic attack, then they aren't sure whether they're together or not, then it takes Justine Littlewood of all people to basically show them they should be together, and it was just a perfect relationship story. And the show ended with them definitely together, then suddenly Tracy Beaker has a daughter and is trying to date Sean Godfrey. Like, there is no mention of Seth whatsoever. Not by Cam, not by Tracy, nothing. So I thought we need to give Seth some justice here, so we are going to try and work out what exactly did happen in those years between the end of Tracy Beaker Returns and the beginning of My Mum, Tracy Beaker, and finally work out why Seth isn't with Tracy anymore in this movie. But before we go any further, please make sure that you've clicked the red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make a brand new Tracy Beaker video. So, before we even begin to wonder what went down between Tracy and Seth, we actually have to ask a question which might seem a bit weird. Does Tracy Beaker Returns and My Mum, Tracy Beaker take place in the same universe? Now, of course, Tracy Beaker is not as complicated as something like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you do have to wonder why there literally was no reference to Tracy Beaker Returns at all in this film. You had many references and characters from the story of Tracy Beaker, so we know they take place in the same universe, and we know story of Tracy Beaker and Tracy Beaker Returns takes place in the same universe together, and the dumping ground which Tracy has appeared in for Mike's wedding literally takes place right after Tracy Beaker Returns with the same characters, so we know them two shows are in the same universe, but for some reason we can't confirm whether Tracy Beaker Returns and My Mum, Tracy Beaker is in the same universe, even though everything else is connected. And that is for one simple reason: Tracy Beaker's daughter, Jess Beaker. Now, I think Jess is a great addition, however, she causes a lot of problems. It's not the character, it's actually her age. In My Mum, Tracy Beaker, she is 10 years old. Tracy Beaker Returns came out in 2012. That was 9 years ago. But you might be saying, well, shows may come out at certain times, but be set in different years, and that's also true, so I decided to do some digging. And in all of the Tracy Beaker Returns episodes, one episode in particular, which has quite a big link to My Mum, Tracy Beaker, reveals what year the final season of Tracy Beaker Returns takes place in. Justine Littlewood Returns of all episodes has Gus mentioned that it has been 6 years since Justine left the dumping ground since 2006, meaning the final season of Tracy Beaker Returns takes place in the year it was released, 2012. That would mean for Jess to have been born and be 10 in My Mum, Tracy Beaker, it would mean My Mum, Tracy Beaker takes place in 2022, and that is at the earliest. That would mean Tracy got pregnant to have Jess as soon as she left being a care worker, and at that point she was already with Seth. So, for this to work, Seth and Tracy would have had to broke up straight away after the end of Tracy Beaker Returns, and then Tracy would have had to got together with Jess's dad and had Jess, like, straight away. Like, it's very unrealistic. And we know from a line Tracy says that her and Jess's father were very close, as she says she thought Jess's dad was the one, so it wasn't like a one-night stand sort of thing. No, they definitely were planning to have a baby together. Now, you may be wondering, well, what if Seth is Jess's dad? Unfortunately, that's not true either. In the book, it confirms that Jess's father is a guy called C. Martin, who is a DJ. Now, maybe Tracy met C through Seth, you might be asking, since they're both into music. Well, no, not either. She met him through friends at work when she was working at a bar, and they had a serious relationship with him, so much so they had a child together. It doesn't seem that Tracy would dump Seth for this guy straight away after leaving Elmtree House, so what is going on here? So does this mean that in My Mum Tracy Beaker, Seth and Tracy as a care worker and her whole life in Tracy Beaker Returns just didn't exist because there isn't enough years between them to make Jess 10 years old? Well, no, thankfully, because Jess, who caused all of these problems in the first place, actually makes it work in the very first narration she says in the film. The first job that she lists Tracy having was being a care worker, and throughout all of the film, it never specifies what date or year the film is set in. It could be set in 2021 when it was released, however, that would disprove all of Tracy Beaker Returns, and that wouldn't work for me, and I don't think the show producers want to do that. So I reckon it's set a bit later in time, enough time for Tracy to A, leave the dumping ground, B, for things to not work out with Seth, C, then get together with C. Martin, Jess's dad, D, be pregnant with Jess, and then E, have 10 years pass for this show to come. I'd say the earliest this film is set in is early 2023, but I reckon it could be somewhere set even as late as 2024, as there's nothing stopping it from being set in that time. And as for Tracy returning in the dumping ground, which we all know is connected to Tracy Beaker Returns and not mentioning that she has a daughter, well, Danny Harmer has tried to clear this up with this.
Yes, I did go back to the dumping ground for Mike's wedding, and no, I didn't mention a daughter, but that's not to say that she exists.
Plus, there is the fact that we see Tracy reading her own autobiography to Jess, which we know she only wrote in Tracy Beaker Returns. Like, that's basically the whole plot of the first season. So since we've cleared up that Tracy Beaker Returns can still work with My Mum Tracy Beaker, now we have to find out what went wrong with Seth, and we literally have nothing to go off. Although, I should say at first. The film never truly says anything about Seth, but at the same time it sort of does. Firstly, clearly after Seth and Jess's dad, Tracy and her look of boyfriends has not been going very well. There's a full scene in the film where Cam and Jess discuss Tracy's ex-boyfriends, including Tristan from the city, the banker, the biker, and Blue, the skateboarder, and they don't mention Seth whatsoever. However, what we do know about Seth and Jess's father and Sean Godfrey compared to the long list of the past dates is Tracy thought all of them could have been the one. However, they have all ended in sad endings. But there's another link between them. C. Martin, Jess's dad, and Sean Godfrey have all ended for basically the same reason. In the book, Jess describes her dad by saying heaps of other girls thought he was the one too. So C had clearly been cheating on Tracy, which is why she broke up with him. And yet the same thing has happened here with Sean Godfrey. Tracy finds out she's been cheated on with Sean Godfrey by none other than Justine Littlewood. Now, apart from the fact that when Tracy finds out about this she is completely devastated, the way the characters react tell us a lot about how Tracy feels about being cheated on. When Tracy finds out Sean has cheated on her, she gets more angry than she usually does. She slams the wall, and you can see Jess crying and maybe even being terrified of what is about to happen. Now, Jess may be acting like this because she feels sad for her mum, but I reckon it's because she is worried it is happening again. Jess shouts the line, "Mum, stop it, don't hurt yourself," which is a very serious line to say. There's never been any instances of Tracy hurting herself before that we know of, but since Jess is so worried about the situation and feels the need to shout this, maybe it has happened before and we just don't know about it and she has tried to hurt herself. As the episode goes on, you see Tracy becoming more and more depressed and angry. She throws the phone at the wall and basically just gives up on life and doesn't really see the point in living anymore. Now, I get she was about to marry Sean and was very close to him, but she wouldn't necessarily be acting like this for this long. I reckon she'd only act like this if something like this had happened before and she hates that it is happening again. This goes as far as Tracy getting angry with Jess because she can't cope and she shouts, "Life's not fair, Jess," suggesting once again something tragic like this has happened to her earlier in her life. But all of these reactions you might say is purely just because she is sad about Sean. However, Tracy herself basically disproves this when she says, "It's not even about Sean, it's me. I'm doing this to myself." That line there basically proves that her depression isn't just due to the fact that Sean has broken up with her, but rather Sean's actions of cheating has brought up other depressing things that have happened to her before. So you might be asking, how does all this relate to Seth? Well, I reckon she wouldn't be acting this sad unless she'd experienced cheating on a very serious relationship before. This would explain why she has tried dating so many people because she can't seem to trust them fully. In Tracy Beaker Returns, Seth and Tracy were extremely close, like Sean and Tracy. The entire second half of the show focused on their relationship, and it looked like they were going to be together forever. However, we also know from episodes like Justine Littlewood Returns that Tracy was never truly and fully honest with Seth, and that she could never make up her mind. Like I said before, it takes the whole Justine returning situation to make her see she is in love with Seth, and you can see throughout this key episode that Seth really finds it annoying that Tracy just can never make up her mind about their relationship. Which means situations like this might have happened before, which could lead Seth to maybe doing something he regrets later, simply because Tracy can't make up her mind and it's getting him annoyed. Maybe Seth asked Tracy to go on tour with him with his band, or even proposed to her, but Tracy was so uncertain again that she just couldn't make up her mind. That could very easily lead Seth to do something like cheating. And the biggest piece of evidence for all this is that we've actually technically seen Seth do something like cheating before. Not literal cheating, but he has been talking to other girls while talking to Tracy. In the finale of Series 2 of Tracy Beaker Returns, called Chain Reaction, Tracy is struggling with Cam being away from her in New York. This leads to Tracy wanting to reunite with Seth, so she calls him, and by this point in the series, they've kind of been on and off talking, but never confirmed anything. And while Seth is on tour, he discusses how he met a girl while touring with the band. We don't get to find out exactly what happened between Seth and this girl on tour, but we do know that Tracy can't deal with the news, and that added with the fact that Cam is away, she ends up having a huge panic attack. So I reckon all of this points to these events taking place. Tracy leaves Elm Tree House while still being together with Seth. They are very close, however, Seth is away with the band or has a big decision to make, yet Tracy is very indecisive about it like she's been in the past. While on tour with the band, Seth meets a girl. It could be the same one he met before, or it could be a different one, and he cheats on Tracy with her. He instantly regrets it, like how he did before at the end of Series 2 of Tracy Beaker Returns, so a similar thing might happen where he returns to Tracy. However, Tracy becomes extremely depressed and angry, maybe she even tries hurting herself judging from the line Jess shouted before, and after this serious relationship, Tracy is very depressed and basically gives up on life till eventually she returns back to normal. She then meets C. Martin and they have a very serious relationship and she gives birth to Jess, but then he cheats on her, making her even more depressed. Then, 10 years later, she reunites and becomes engaged to Sean Godfrey, and she becomes very angry and depressed when he cheats on her again, and this time 3 serious relationships for Tracy have all now ended in cheating. So she literally can't deal with it anymore, and that explains why she is so hurt in My Mum Tracy Beaker and has to move out. She has to go to Cam, and she basically has just given up on everything because it has happened so often to her now. And on a side note, I really don't think it's just a coincidence that Justine met Sean and he cheated on Tracy with her, and the episode where Tracy and Seth finally get together is the one where Justine returns, and that episode focuses on Justine being cheated on. Like, I'm not saying Justine and Seth got together or anything, but you never know. There is a lot of emphasis on cheating here. But anyway, guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, make sure that you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. What do you think of this theory? Let us know down below in the comments, and make sure you leave down there all of your thoughts on whether you think I'm right about why Seth isn't with Tracy anymore. Do you think Seth cheated on Tracy, or do you think there's another reason? And do you think we'll ever see Seth again? Because I really hope he returns if there is a second season. Also, let me know all your thoughts about My Mum Tracy Beaker and any other ideas you would like us to do down below in the comments. And as always, we've been here at Gate Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.